The Revisioning History for Young People series. Hi, everyone. I'm Manisha, the founder of Modulo, and I'm really happy to share Revisioning History for Young People series with you today. If you don't know about it already, I feel like I'm offering you such a gift because it fills a very much needed gap in history curriculum for young people. In just, I mean, if you, like me, think that history is not very comprehensive and there are stories that are not shared as much as they could be, it's just so useful to have a resource that's there to help children understand what actually happened in this country. There's so many diverse voices and diverse experiences, and wherever you fall in terms of your own background and identity, it's just useful to understand about all these different voices and experiences that shape our world and what's going on today. The Revisioning History for Young People series includes 3 books, and they're all adaptations of the book that was designed for adults. In some cases, people who I've talked to, historians and others, think that the young people's version is actually even better than the original version. So if your teen is older, you might want to look at the original book. But if they're a bit younger, middle school age, this is a really good starting place for them. These books are designed for middle schoolers. Of course, as a parent, you can make the best decision for your child. Even if your child is a little bit younger, 8 to 10, upper elementary, it might be something that you can read along with them. So the first book is The Rebellious Life of Mrs. Rosa Parks by Jean Theotaris. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. I'm sorry about that. But it was considered best of books of 2021. There's a documentary about it, and it's all about Rosa Parks. She has an incredible story that a lot of us don't know about. I know that for me, before I discovered this book, I really just knew about her sitting on the bus and being the face of the civil rights movement, but there's just so much more to her than that. So this is a really wonderful book, especially if you're interested in learning more about civil rights, Black history, activism. I know a lot of kids now are thinking about how they can get involved in making transformation in our world. So Rosa Parks is an incredible inspiration for that. The Rebellious Life of Mrs. Rosa Parks. And that was adapted by Brandy Colbert and the author herself, Jean Theoharis. And it's designed for ages 12 and up, but as a parent, it's really your decision about what your child is ready for and when and how you want to explore this book together. Brian Stevenson called it a must-read for young people. All right, so the next book in the series is A Queer History of the United States for Young People. I have had a really challenging time finding history programs that are about queer history. I definitely feel like it's a topic I don't know a lot about myself. I should know more. Queer history has everything to do with the United States, what it is today. LGBTQ people have had an enormous role in shaping our identity, our lives. Modulo is an inclusive community. We support people who have all love in every way that they want to love, and support people in choosing the identity that works best for them. And, that's a really important part of our mission. Certainly, wherever you fall in terms of how you feel about politics and current events, your levels of comfort or discomfort in accepting other people, I think that queer history is just really important to know about. And these people have had such a huge role in shaping our world and in making our lives better and making awareness about sex education, about identity, culture, politics, and shaped much more than simply, um, queer history and queer rights, but everything that we know today and all the other civil rights movements. So this is history that's not really well covered, and it's just so good to know about no matter what your politics are. The book was written by Michael Bronsky, the version that high schoolers might want to use or grown-ups, and this is the queer history of the United States for young people. So if you're looking for a great resource for learning about queer history, this is just such a fantastic place to start, and I really wish that there were more resources like that. Covers people like Emily Dickinson, who was a 19th century poet who wrote about her desire for women, Gladys Bentley, Harlem blues singer, Bayard Rustin, who played a huge role in the civil rights movement, and Sylvia Rivera, who started the first transgender activist group called STAR. These are just really important people to know about, and I know that these topics of queer identity, especially right now, it's really intense, it's really heated. There's a lot of they did that on and anger, but I just feel like knowledge is power, and however you're feeling about these issues, whatever personal challenges you're facing, in being more accepting and more inclusive, or if you feel like you want your own identity to be more recognized and supported, you want to see more people like you want your children to be able to have more role models to look up to, you just want to understand the US and the world better, this book is just a really valuable place to start. One of the things I want to say is that often when we write about difficult, or for some people, topics like civil rights or queer history, there can be a lot of resistance. And what I would just want to say is that isn't it better to know than not know? And what I really like about these books is I don't feel like they're trying to push a particular agenda on how people should think and act. They're really helping to inform and cover stories that we might not know about, and really living in that spirit of critical thinking that is so vital to education and learning. And that's one of the reasons that I do recommend them so highly. Okay, so then last but not certainly not least is an Indigenous people's history of the United States for young people. Quite a title. So I would say even more than queer history, what Indigenous people's history, it's just so hard to find high quality resources that are accurate, comprehensive, inclusive, really help people understand the huge impact of Native Americans and navigate this very challenging topic of our nation's origins, where we inflicted incredible violence and destruction and genocide. And how do you live with that today? How can you hold these truths and acknowledge them and work for justice and also not be completely annihilated in the sadness of it all? So, as an education company, we just always feel like learning is better than ignorance. And so I really recommend this book. Now, I do want to point out I am a group I'm part of, which I really, really love, called the Strictly Secular and Inclusive Group. And this group does not recommend the version for adults, they only recommend the version for young people. Book was not adopted by the author, or it was adopted by Jean Mendoza and Debbie Reese. And in terms of giving a comprehensive view of Indigenous people's history, these families feel like the version for adults doesn't cover this topic as well as it could. It's problematic for a variety of reasons that we're not going to get into today, but I do, just for now, want to say we do recommend Indigenous People's History of the United States for young people, and it's one of the few resources on Indigenous people that we do recommend, just because there's just so many stereotypes and inaccuracies in resources on this topic. So these books are just so beautiful. I'm excited to dive into them more deeply. And I hope that if you have read some of these great books, you will share your comments in this video, which you liked best. Are there any parts of the book you didn't like and why? And if you do decide to read them, please let us know and share your thoughts. It would be great if we could even start discussing these books right here. So definitely check out Revisioning History for Young People series from Beacon Press and let us know what you think. And have a wonderful day. everybody.